Hello, check, check. What's up? I'm live. I couldn't wait any longer. I was getting a phone call that I'd been waiting for, and I let it go to voicemail because, yeah, like I said, I can't wait any longer. Let me do a sound check. It looks like it's working. I think a big storm just started, plus this type of material that I'm covering seems to lose the live stream easily. So we will just see how it goes. So thank you for being here. And my apologies for my new braces and me still trying to learn how to talk with them. The good news is that I am learning how to eat with them, and I'm learning how to sleep with them too. Talking, it's a whole nother story. And I know I sound a little bit funny, but the worst part is when I bite my effing tongue, not metaphorically, but literally. I don't mind biting my tongue metaphorically once in a while, you got to mind your P's and Q's, but biting it literally with metal is the worst. Anyway, enough about my problems. How are you? Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something, be educational. All my videos are made for YouTube. It's an infotainment platform, and most, if not all, of my research and resources that I look at to create my videos is from the internet. So some of it is maybe from Roku. Some of it is from my own life experience, but all of it is my opinion. And I really do encourage people to not adopt other people's opinions, just to formulate your own. And Anna Bees, hello, darling. How are you? So good to see you in Shan's chat last night. I know I caught it just at the tail end. Squirrels on Fire, and it looked like a really good one. It looked like she had gone 3 hours. So I was glad that I at least caught the ending, and I started to go onto the replay crew, but I didn't get that far. I'm driving to my ortho appointment, and I know that's not orthodontist, that's orthopedic, right? And Fred Field, hello, how are you? I made sure not to come on early today since I did that to you yesterday. And again, I really do apologize. I appreciate you both so much. How is your Wednesday, August 13th? It's almost 3:20 in the afternoon. I got to tell you, I'm a little crushed under the weight of the bull crap. So it's really helpful for me to come on to my lives and explain my process, my learning, my understanding to my viewers and get your input because you guys are extremely wise. And I appreciate that so much. I missed part of Shan's live too. I missed a lot of Shan's live too. Were you there, Fred? I don't remember. I think I saw you come in like right after me, right? It was late, so it would have been like almost when you were waking up in the morning if you were there, but maybe I'm imagining that. Anyway, please hit your like button. Make sure that you're still subscribed if you are subscribed, and if you're not, consider doing so. Share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like my channel. Turn on your notification bell to ring a ding ding, and let's start with some good laughter. I need it. I would imagine we all need it. I watched about an hour of Hands This AM. I'm sure you meant Shan. The key just didn't register. I will be listening, so can't type. Cool. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, I started to watch about the first hour as well, Fred, and I wanted to get through the rest of it. My real focus these days has been the little e-files, which is why I used what I thought was a brilliant meme that I found on Keith Edwards' community post, where it has a person covered in little pieces of paper, kind of like birds and feathers. and standing right in front of some ICE agents. And it says something like, you know, if you want to hide from the federal government, just disguise yourself as an Epstein file. That's essentially what it says. And I thought that was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. But what's not hilarious is the bull crap that they're trying to shove down our throats. So I have been speaking the last few days about the Alaska visit with Vladdy and Donnie coming up, supposedly the day after tomorrow. You know, nothing about this administration is the least bit normal, let alone kosher. And I have been wondering if Donnie was trying to lay a trap for Vladdy, but really it's probably Vladdy trying to lay a trap for, I want to call him Big Orange Balls, a new nickname, Tiny Orange Balls, right? Man, my hat feels like it's too tight. It's gonna like squeeze my brain or something, and I can't have that. Or maybe that's just all the cases that I'm talking about, feeling like my head's in a vice grip, right? So let's see. Scott Jennings on CNN. I have a quote written down. I put the link in the description to the CNN video. It's a short one that's just from today, I think maybe yesterday. And he said, I don't know why anyone would be mad about the Alex Acosta crap from 2006, 2007, 2008. And you probably remember Alex Acosta is the Florida Attorney General who put that bull crap, what they call the sweetheart deal, which is really like a criminal pedo deal, together for little E. And then a couple of years later, or I guess 10 years later, roughly, somewhere around there, yeah, about 10 years later, he was appointed to the Trumpster Fire's cabinet. And then when little E was arrested, he had to step down immediately. And he had a lot of trouble getting appointed too. So let me start out with reading you an article from the Palm Beach Post, if you don't mind. And here we go. It's called Jeffrey Epstein Judge Receives 2006 Grand Jury Materials in Palm Beach Post Lawsuit. The very first prosecutor to consider criminal charges against Jeffrey Epstein, arguably the world's most prolific sexual predator with an estimated 500 victims. And we know that that's a gross underestimation. Maybe at that point in time, but even back then. Mysteriously weakened his own case before a 2006 grand jury, a 2019 Palm Beach Post investigation found. And now the public and victims may be on the verge of finding out why little E was able to molest, rape, and traffic underage girls for 13 more years. I just think this is so important. As much as it feels like I'm putting my head in a vice grip, I have to. And it does. The Epstein saga began and could have ended in Palm Beach County. The Post sued in 2019 to find out why it didn't. The newspaper sought to find out what happened behind the veil of grand jury secrecy that resulted in Epstein being charged with only one count of solicitation of prostitution, what an adult John propositioning a sex worker might face. Nothing about statutory. Nothing about child abuse. Not only even though they did identify the age as 14, they treated this 14-year-old victim as an adult, essentially. not essentially, literally. Okay. Not only did former Palm Beach County State Attorney Barry Kirshner's prosecutor undermine his own case before grand jurors. It says, but she subverted the testimony, and so we know it's AI. It should be he, right? But he subverted the testimony of the lone 14-year-old witness. Several minors had told police strikingly similar stories about little E's molesting, even raping them, but they did not testify. A panel of the 4th District Court of Appeals decided in May that the trial judge was entitled to release the grand jury material that will show how strong or even how much of a case prosecutors presented. Circuit Judge Luis Delgado ordered the clerk of courts to deliver the material to him on Monday so he can review it in private. Then he'll decide what can be released in furtherance of justice, a part of Florida law that was a tenet of the Post's case. It's not clear when or even if Delgado might release the material. The newspaper, for example, has encouraged victims' names be redacted. Depending on how voluminous the material is, it could take some time. Rarely is grand jury material made public. It is kept secret to allow jurors to be candid, prevent defendants from destroying evidence, and protect the accused in cases in which they are later exonerated. But these factors no longer apply, the Post argued. It can no longer credibly be maintained that continued blanket secrecy over the proceedings that led to the egregiously flawed 2006 Epstein indictment is warranted under the law. The Post complaint by Greenberg Traurig attorneys Mike Greigel, Stephen Mendelson, and Nina Boyajian reads, to the contrary, transparency is required to promote public understanding of the criminal justice system and public confidence in the fair administration of justice. This case breaks new legal ground, Mendelson said. That is the first time in Florida that a court has ordered release of grand jury materials to the media other than in public corruption criminal cases. So here's a quote from the police chief to Krishner. I must urge you to consider if reason exists for your disqualification from prosecution of these cases. In the wake of the 2006 indictment against Little E, Palm Beach police chief Michael Ritter took the case to the FBI, citing in a letter the highly unusual actions Kirchner had taken in this case. I must urge you to consider if good and sufficient reason exists to require your disqualification from prosecution of these cases, Ritter said in his letter to Kirchner. Palm Beach police said they had found 13 minors who said Little E had molested or raped them. The FBI found many more accusers and federal prosecutors put together a 53-page, 60-count indictment after Little E's arrest. However, Kirchner, Chief Federal Prosecutor Marie Villafana, and Little E's high-powered lawyers, one of which is Alan Dershowitz, began to negotiate the deal of the century, as one assistant state attorney later put it. The infamous non-prosecution agreement they came up with shielded Little E as well as several co-conspirators from federal prosecution. The Post successfully sued in 2009 to unseal the agreement. Victims weren't told about deal for Jeffrey E's 2008 guilty plea. Little E in 2008 pleaded guilty to the solicitation charge in addition to another prostitution-related felony involving minors, which required him to register as a Rex offender. Victims were not told anything about the deal before he appeared in court. Little E was sentenced to 18 months in jail, not prison, as is usual for sentences longer than a year. He served 13. Well, that's why I always get it confused whether it was 13 or 18. Excuse me. He served 13 in a private wing of the Palm Beach County Jail and was on work release 12 hours a day, 6 days a week. He claimed to be working at his newly formed Florida Science Foundation in West Palm Beach. An attorney who represents several victims said a teenager was flown in for Rex with him at that office. Little E paid for sheriff's deputies to monitor him while he was working. Little E was released from jail in 2009 and went on to continue hobnobbing with the rich and famous until federal authorities in New York charged him with Rex trafficking in July 2019 and jailed him. In August of that year, he was found hanging. A medical examiner ruled his death a self-injurious action. 2 years later, Little E's former girlfriend, Jiz Max, was found guilty and sentenced to 20 years for conspiring to Rex traffic minors, among other charges related to Little E's scheme. She worked from as early as 94 through 2004, enticing girls into Rex with Epstein and participating in the abuse herself. Jiz Max lured Virginia Giuffre, who settled a lawsuit with Prince Andrew recently over an allegation he sexually abused her when she was 17, from Mar-a-Lago, where Giuffre, formerly Roberts, was working in the spa at age 15. Is that an error, or is that one of the few places? Because I've seen it before as 15. I hadn't caught that earlier. Dang. So maybe she worked there for a lot longer. You know, they try to make it look like she only worked there for a week or so. But Hal Sparks had found something that said she made $1,800 while she was employed there. And if she was in high school, just working part-time, $1,800 spread out over a year would make more sense, wouldn't it? Okay, because it was right before her 17th birthday, I believe, that she was poached or stolen, to use Little T's words, when Little E stole his girl out of a spa person, stole his employee. Anyway, I don't like to speak like that, but I want to emphasize that that's how the President of the United States refers to children that are being raped and trafficked. Stolen property, his stolen property, not just any stolen property, his. She was his. And she was stolen, and he was only worried about her being stolen. He wasn't worried about her being deceased now or all of the abuse that she suffered. He wasn't the least bit concerned about that. He was just concerned about how what a great spa he has and how she didn't complain about working there. You know, it was all about him, of course, as always. It's disgusting. At least one of the 4 victims who testified in Jiz Max's trial lives in Palm Beach County. Carolyn Adriano, who recently went public, said Giuffre recruited her for Little E. Carolyn Adriano is the one who was, shortly after this article was written, found deceased in a hotel room, the one who had 5 children and a couple $100,000 in the bank and was married, purchasing a new property with her husband. And she was found deceased in a fancy hotel in 2023. So the conviction of Jiz Max was 2022. So this article is written between 2022 and 2023. Somewhere in there. Another Palm Beach County victim goes public. Adriano, and remember, this person passed away. This person was Epstein shortly after this, okay? Adriano told the Daily Mail that she had a troubled past and chaotic life when she first visited Little E in 2001 at age 14. Her mother was an alcoholic and addicted to drugs, and Adriano had been sexually abused by her grandmother's partner when she was 4. Many of Little E's victims had been sexually abused previously, and their families struggled financially. That's pretty typical of perpetrators to sniff those people out, right? Adriano said she went to Little E's mansion about 100 times, 3 or 4 times a week over the next 4 years. Lawyers said her testimony was pivotal in convicting Maxwell, and then she ends up Epsteined in a hotel room. Almost done with this article here. I'm not ashamed of being a victim of Jeffrey E. and Jiz Max, she told the Daily Mail. For other girls that have been victimized, I want them to know it's okay to come out and tell somebody, even if you don't want to be identified, and the sooner the better. I want people to know these terrible things have happened to me and that I am a survivor. So, and then she wasn't a survivor anymore. It's absolutely vile. So, as you know, I don't remember anything if I don't look at my notes. So I want to share a video with you guys. I haven't put the link in the description yet. It was so painfully hard to watch. It's this really excellent podcast creator. Her name is Tara Palmera, or is it Tara Palmieri? Let me see. So I get it right. But like I said, I'll put it in the description too. Tara. It's Palmieri, Tara Palmieri, American journalist. So she interviewed Michael Cohen. And like I said, it's absolutely painful to watch it. Let's see. Tara Palmieri interview with Michael Cohen. You know, Michael Cohen was one of the most disgusting people in the world, in my opinion, back in the day when he was Trumpster Fire's fixer in the first administration. And then he went to prison, as we all know, and he made tremendously unexpected positive changes. And I thought there was a lot of hope for him as far as correcting the horrible things that he had done in his lifetime. You know, the things that he's going to have to answer to his maker for someday. But in the meantime, he's kind of backslid. And he's the one who's been saying that Trumpster Fire didn't know how to doodle. He didn't know how to use a big word like enigma in trying to viciously and so defensively defend Donnie about that birthday letter to Little E that Rupert Murdoch published in the Wall Street Journal a couple of weeks ago, and Dear Donnie subsequently fired a $10 billion lawsuit. I think it was a gazillion-dollar lawsuit against Rupert Murdoch and Wall Street Journal. Anyway, Michael Cohen has just been like rabid about that Trump didn't write that letter. And no, I don't work for him anymore. But it's like so obvious that he is essentially working for him, whether he's had threats against his life. I don't even think he needs to have threats against his or his family's life. It's sort of implied, isn't it? Anyway, yeah. It was just 23 hours ago, and it is brutal, absolutely brutal. So she's talking a lot about the Katie Johnson lawsuit. If you're not familiar with the Katie Johnson lawsuit yet, you want to be, and you I'm sure will be, not just from this video, but in general. Katie Johnson is a person who filed a lawsuit against Dear Leader 3 times in 2016. 3 times. And withdrew that lawsuit 3 times and said that she was threatened, is why she withdrew it. And I don't think anybody knows what's happened to Katie Johnson since then. I don't know that. I think she's, I mean, probably she's disappeared in a witness protection plan, if not something worse, right? So she says she was 13 and that she was raped by little E and little T on 4 separate occasions, I think. And she was interviewed, I believe it was on the Today Show by Savannah Guthrie. I want to say that was like 2017. Maybe I'll look that up too. Anyway, this Tara Palmieri interview of Michael Cohen was absolutely explosive and really uncomfortable to watch. It started out all friendly and happy, and he was just trying to mow her over, and she wasn't having it. She is a tough biatch, and for that, I love her. I mean, she's a real professional and a real fighter for justice. And yeah, it's really interesting, all the stuff that's been written about it just since yesterday. What else do I want to share with you about it? I'll just put the link in the description. So Raw and Unfiltered is what Tara calls her podcast. She's just amazing. I forget her whole resume, but she's got quite the professional background, quite the feathers in her cap. But nothing, in my opinion, like this interview with Michael Cohen, where she really pushes, and he gets pretty brutal, and he's pretty feisty, and he's pretty tough. I mean, he sounds like a mafia guy with that accent that he's got, like New Jersey. He really is sort of a thug and a gangsta, in my opinion. And I thought that he had made some really positive changes in his life, and that was not the case anymore. When he first started his YouTube channel, I was very impressed with him, as I was with Scaramucci, Anthony Scaramucci, the shortest lived cabinet member in the history of the White House, probably. I think he lasted 10 days. You probably remember Anthony Scaramucci. I mean, with a name like that. And he sort of had a face like the Joker in one of, not the Joker, because it would have been from Spider-Man. Who is that actor? William Dafoe. Back then he looked a lot like William Dafoe in the Spider-Man movies, in my opinion. Anyway, Scaramucci too, he had done the same thing. He started his own YouTube channel. He really turned his life around. I was like, man, these guys are awesome. They're out here speaking their truth. They made horrible decisions. They stood side by side with a criminal and protected a criminal. And now they've decided to be better and to make up for the negative impact that they've had on society. And since then, they both have sort of proven to me, in my opinion, that a tiger does not change its stripes. Sadly. Very sad to say, because it looked like they made great efforts. It looked like they were doing it. And then it looks like they backslid. And sorry, that hurt so much. Sure, I understand if, the threats are real, but you cannot allow somebody like that to control you. You just can't. It's not safe for you because on a whim, on a dime, they can turn against you anyway, and you're just throwing gasoline on the fire to allow that. And because I keep biting my tongue and there haven't been any comments, I'm wondering if I'm still on because this storm is pretty heavy outside. If somebody could throw a heart or a comment just to let me know if you can still hear me, because my tongue is killing me and I don't want to put the wax in my mouth in front of you guys because it's kind of gross, but maybe I'll try to do it discreetly because I've bitten it like 2 or 3 times already and man, it hurts. Anyway, where was I? So this guy, Scott Jennings from CNN, that was saying, why would anyone in the world be mad about the Acosta crap now? I mean, that was so long ago. Like, who cares? And he even went on to say, the polls show that no one cares. Like what freaking polls are you looking at? The polls that you created? 1 second. I didn't tell you that I went to my orthodontist already today. It was the first time I've had to go for an emergency appointment because one of the wires broke. Oh, that's just the worst. 1 second. I said I wasn't going to do that, and now I'm doing that. Okay, hopefully that'll protect my damn tongue from bleeding. But let me try to shore this up and say the real important points before wrapping up. The wax just does not want to stick. It just wants to be like chewing gum. Okay. I want to say that Trump is like the slipperiest person imaginable, in my opinion. And I also want to call out Harry Enton from CNN. He's the statistics guy who gets really physical when he's talking about statistics. He's reading on his whiteboard and he gets very dramatic, kind of like a Charlie Chaplin. And he was saying yesterday or the day before that the number of times that little e has been Googled has dropped 89%. He doesn't really say in what period of time. Just his idea is that because it dropped 89%, nobody's interested in what happened. There's no there anymore. Nobody cares. And it's like, you can't throw around percentages without giving a context to what you're talking about. Because let's say that little e was Googled 2 billion times a minute a month ago, right? When all this was really blowing up. I'm, of course, exaggerating it, but let's just say 2 billion times a minute. So if it dropped 89%, according to Harry Enton, it would still be a lot. It would still be a whole lot. And even if nobody was Googling it, it doesn't mean that they don't care anymore. It means that they already Googled it. They already found out what they needed to know. And so they're not having to Google it anymore, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. Anyway, both of these individuals on CNN really made me see CNN as Fox News, basically, which is sad because they seemed to have a little credibility still, but I don't think any of the major news channels I mean, MSNBC still has some credibility, in my opinion, but even them, even them. But at the same time, it's like it's so obsolete. Nobody's watching major news anymore. The mainstream media. People look stuff up on their phones. They read articles on their phones. They watch videos on their phones. One of Trumpster Fire's reasons behind unleashing the military in Washington, D.C. is that he said it should be safe for somebody to walk to the store to buy a newspaper. Like, what century are you living in? People don't walk to the store to buy newspapers anymore. Like, ain't nobody got time for that. They have their news available at their fingertips. Nobody needs to walk to the freaking store to buy a newspaper. However, in Washington, D.C., if you are walking around the streets, it's a lot safer there than it's been for the last 20 or 30 years. It's safer than it's been. The statistics are in full support of crime in DC decreasing tremendously. And we all know this is a stunt to distract by releasing the military, the National Guard in Washington, D.C. It's definitely a stunt to distract. In fact, Michael, what is his name? The guy who's done all the interviews with Epstein and Trumpster Fire lately, Michael Wolff. Michael Wolff did an interview just yesterday where he said that the last couple of weeks, according to insiders, little Donnie was sort of running around the White House saying, I need something really big. I need something really big, like military taking over a city or something like that. Allegedly, according to Michael Wolff, who seems pretty solid to me. Anyway, I'll put a link to that in the description too. So you don't think I'm making this stuff up out of me brain. And why is Donnie trying to make the White House look like the Disney haunted house, in my opinion, with all those weird paintings with the giant gold frames? For anybody who hasn't been to the haunted house at Disneyland, it's really cool. It's always been one of my favorite rides there when I was growing up and when I went back as an adult. And it's kind of got these weird Dorian Gray photographs that the ghosts come out of, or not photographs, but portraits, paintings. The ghost comes out of them and the paintings get longer, like the walls expand and the painting expands. It's super spooky, super creepy, and super cool. But all of these gold framed paintings in the White House that dear leader has been redecorating with are so reminiscent of the haunted house in Disneyland. It is striking. And there, Fred, thank you. Out to get mail. Thank you for saying something so I know that you're still there and hopefully I'm still here. So yeah, have you ever been to Disneyland? I don't know if they have that same haunted house thing at Disney World. I've only been there once. I bet they do though. But another thing is that it's really weird for a guy to be redecorating, isn't it? I mean, that's normally the first lady's forte, and he's redecorating the White House to make it as gaudy AF. Like, he's the Great Gatsby or something? It's a tragic story, dude. You don't want to be the Great Gatsby. And he's put little gold cherubs in the White House as accents in some of the ceilings and corners, the molding. Little gold babies. Really? When we're talking about little E doing the things that he did, you're putting babies without clothes on, painted gold on your walls. Not too bright. Not the sharpest bulb in the drawer, as he once said. Not the sharpest bulb. I love it when he talks like that. I just love it. Anyway, I don't think it was an accident when he called Alaska Russia yesterday. Was it yesterday or the day before in that I think it was yesterday at that 10 o'clock meeting where he was flanked with Blondie Bondi, Keg's Breath, Cash Patel next to Bondi, and then on the other side of Patel was Janine Pirro, who is insane. I don't know if there were more people on that side. And then next to Heg's Breath, I think was Howard Nutlick. And then I didn't recognize the guy on the other side of Lutnick. But man, Lutnick and Michael Cohen. Lutnick and Michael Cohen and Trumpster Fire all go way back. Like, they're buddies. And Lutnick is one of the guys who helped Rumble go public. He's another billionaire. He's another, in my opinion, extremely unqualified person in this cabinet. But Trumpster Fire, flanked by all of these unqualified cabinet members, when he was delivering that address yesterday, seemed so weak. It seemed like he needed those people out there to prop him up and to be a distraction. And so that when he got tired of talking, he could have them step in and say a few words, which he did that. And it wasn't only at those times that he looked like he was falling asleep. He almost looked like he was falling asleep some of the time when he was talking. It's so gaudy. Exactly, Anna B's good word choice. Absolutely. So, yeah, the crazy talk the point that I was trying to get to about, he made a statement that he was going to be meeting with Vladdy in Russia on Friday. I think at two different points in time, he said Russia. And some people thought that he was confused. And I didn't think so. And I've heard other people say they didn't think he was confused either. They think, what I think is that he's already trying to plant the seeds and pave the way to swap that territory back to Russia. I don't think it's going to fly. I don't think it's going to fly. And, this whole administration is just so atrocious and outlandish and upsetting. But they do that. Again, I'm going to bring up that idea that I've brought up a lot the last few weeks of like the death throes of the dragon. The more cornered they are, the closer to the end of the road and having to answer for their crap, they just lash out with all kinds of crazy. I really think of it as like the death throes of the dragon. And I feel like that's what we're seeing now. That's what we're seeing now with the cities getting invaded by federal troops. That's what we're seeing with this concept of swapping territories. Personally, I don't believe that meeting the day after tomorrow is really going to happen. I think he's going to do another dog ate my homework. We're going to postpone it for a couple of weeks kind of thing, which I guess is what he just did yesterday or the day before August, or it was a few days ago. I think it was August 7th when the tariffs were supposed to kick in. And a few hours before the tariffs were supposed to kick in, he did an extension for China. Still waiting for them to call, Yeah, maybe that was on Tuesday, Taco Tuesday. That would have been just yesterday. I mean, it's all going at such a rapid rate. It's rapid fire news cycles, and that is precisely the idea, is to make it overwhelming and mind numbing and crushing to try to pay attention to any of it. And sometimes it makes me want to give up and throw in the towels, and other times it just like puts fire under my feet to want to get even more focused, because I feel like it's imperative. It's absolutely imperative. So prices are up on virtually everything in our country. I can't really speak for other countries because I don't know, but I would imagine other countries too. Prices on virtually everything across the boards, like gasoline, food, housing, energy, interest rates, everything. Prices are up. Wasn't that supposed to all get resolved on day one? The prices of eggs were going to be super awesome on day one. What, like 1,500% less? And again, is he just nuts when he talks about reducing the price of medication 1,500%, 1,400%, 1,200%, 500%? Is he just like trying to fry everybody's brain? Is he doing that on purpose? Or is he just that stupid that he doesn't understand how percentages work? Because he certainly doesn't understand how the whole concept of time works either, in my opinion. In my opinion. I can't believe that no one is stopping him. Well, I think that people are. I think that more is going on behind the scenes, but I can't believe that there's people that are going along with it, because if and when the day comes that he's held accountable for breaking the law, everyone that followed his illegal orders are going to be held accountable for breaking the law too. I mean, they might be able to get immunity by cooperating with an investigation. But yeah, it is insane. I mean, you think about what happened on January 6th, and that all of those criminals that he released, the hostages, as he called them. I mean, this man is so freaking brain fried. So he freed the hostages, and now he's wanting to pay them reparations. Like, no, we're not going to pay the slave descendants reparations, but we're going to pay the hostages that injured law enforcement and threatened to unalive law enforcement. We're going to pay them reparations because they shouldn't have been arrested for breaking the law, for taking a damn crap in the freaking Capitol. Like, and that's right after COVID too. I never thought about it in the context of COVID, because you don't really need to. I mean, taking a crap wasn't it on Nancy Pelosi's desk? But I'm pretty sure there was more than one, and that it was like smeared inside the hallways of the Capitol. I mean, sorry for not doing a trigger warning for anybody who was unawares that it was that bad. It was that bad. There was also a lot of the red stuff everywhere. And this is post-COVID. This is January 6th, 2021, like less than a year after a freaking pandemic. Absolutely gross. He has so much support. I don't think he has as much support as they pretend that he has. Annabees. I think that, the optics and the manipulation of artificial intelligence, I think that the support is actually an extremely small percentage of the general population. I mean, sure, the people like Kristi Noem support him, the people that are getting exorbitant salaries beyond their wildest dreams and, completely unqualified for their jobs. Sure, they're supporting him. They're licking his boots and kissing his rear end. I won't say anything else. I think, yes, on Nancy Pelosi's desk. Right. But I think it was also smeared in the hallways of the Capitol. And, the hallways of the Capitol, I'm pretty sure like they're that nice buttery yellow, just like the chairs in the Oval Office that Trumpster Fire put in there, that nice buttercream yellow, which to me is a very cheerful and refreshing kind of color. And then to like think of human feces being smeared on it, it's just like such a juxtaposition. Like my favorite color of paint with human feces on it. It almost ruins buttercream yellow as my favorite color of paint. I might have to find an alternative now. I mean, I do like the Laura Ashley Old Rose, or no, it's called Antique Rose, and I also like a nice cucumber celery type of light green sage. But anyway, back to this. Back to this. It's nice to sometimes just get lost in the beautiful colors, which is why I have my uh, what is that thing called? Chakra tower. I'm so brain dead. In case you couldn't tell. In case you couldn't tell, thanks for being here. Someone in Shan's chat was one of his supporters. Well, you know, and I don't want to be like calling her out. I mean, she's been a very, very strong supporter as well. So a lot of people, she would speak openly about it. So people in her chat would too. And I would usually bow out of the chats. You know, there was one time where I had to pipe up and be argumentative, but for the most part, you know, I'm just not going to worry about that. Of course, there's going to be people like that. And, you know, Shan came into my chat yesterday or the day before, and I was so happy to see her. And, you know, the last couple of times I've shown up in her chats, I have felt some negative vibes by some of the other people in the chat. I'll just say it. Not so much from her. I mean, she and I have a strong camaraderie with our passion for justice for Kylie Rodney. And, you know, it just is what it is. It's like people are allowed to have their opinions, but yeah. So anyway, Anna Bees, there's a lot of that. And it just, you know, when she was in my chat the other day, I was trying to mention it to her because that was what my whole video was about. Basically, was bashing Donnie, and I didn't want to like put her on the spot, but so I said something about it, and she was like, "I don't want to talk about it on YouTube," and I was like, "Okay, well, that's kind of all I talk about on my channel anymore right now." So I don't know. I don't mean to call her out. I just like to be transparent. I like to be upfront with this kind of crap. And she and I, we've had our ups and downs, not so much about that, but other stuff, you know? I mean, it's fine to have your differences. That's kind of what being human is all about, and having social relationships and interactions. You're always going to have your conflicts. It's not the conflicts that define you, it's how you respond to them and what you do with them. I know, I was so happy to see her on. Totally. And yeah, I know you're not saying anything bad about her at all, Anna Bees, and neither am I. We love Shan. Shan kicks some butt, doesn't she? Like no one. She is amazing. People are allowed to have their opinions. I was just saying how he has a lot of support. Well, again, I think that there's a lot of support online for him. I think a lot of that is not authentic. I think a lot of it is like Russian trolls and bots. And sure, some are authentic, real people. And some of those authentic, real people are people that I love and care about. And it's a point of contention. One of the things that just is so mind-boggling about that whole topic is there's never been a political figure that has been so divisive that people lose relationships with family members. People will get divorces over it. I mean, people just cut off from each other because one supports the president and one doesn't. I mean, it's never been like that. And it was just a couple days ago in one of my lives when I was talking about the splitting. I remember you were here, Annabise, and how people with personality disorders, especially narcissistic personality disorders and borderline personality disorders, they split whatever social circle or group they're a part of. Like, they're extremely divisive and you have to pick sides. They're very manipulative and controlling, and they want everyone to either be rock solid in their corner or they're not. It's very black and white. And you see that with family members, you see that with coworkers, you see it everywhere. But it wasn't until I was talking about that feature of a narcissist a couple of days ago in reference to our dear leader that I was like, wow, he's not only done that with the Republican Party versus the Democratic Party, he's done that within the Republican Party. The Republican Party is completely split. He's done that with the independents and the libertarians that he had successfully absorbed into his base. He's just divided everybody. It's so destructive. It's so counterproductive. And, there's so many bigger problems in the world for us to be focusing on, like child trafficking. And let's just take that word back and say transporting, right? Abuse. Can we just focus? But no, Mr. freaking man baby wants the conversation to be all about him, and he's pretty good at being a master manipulator and keeping himself as the focus of conversation. But let me mention the train derailment that happened in north central Texas yesterday or the day before. Did you hear about that, Annabise? Because I was, with the explosions that happened at the steel plant in Pennsylvania a few days ago too, my first thought is this chaos agent distraction bullcrap? Like Michael Wolff saying that Donnie was running around in the White House a couple of weeks ago saying, I need something big. I need something big. Just like I had been saying, like he needs something like the size of the 9/11 terrorist attack. I mean, seriously, people are not going to get off the e-files until he gives it up. It's just not going to happen. And he can keep hoping and praying and trying to manipulate, but it's not going to happen. Especially not with the victims speaking out. So more and more are retaining attorneys, more and more are coming out publicly. Some are still anonymous, and many are not doing that anymore. They're going to speak their truth. So the more that do that, the more power to the people. Anyway, the thing with the train derailment in Texas and the explosion at the steel plant in Pennsylvania, it's like, of course, these things happen. That's just part of real life, that things like that happen on occasion. However, things like Black Hawk helicopters and airplanes crashing into each other over the Potomac River right by the Ronald Reagan Airport in front of the Capitol, the Washington nation's capital, that does not happen. That does not happen. And then the veracity at which so many planes were crashing and so many helicopters were crashing. And then what? They quit crashing, even though they had fired all those FAA people. All of a sudden, no more crashes. What? But lots of floods. And all of these severe flooding and we'll just call them disturbances in the states of Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico, and California too. I mean, those are all the states that line the Mexican border. Coincidence? I don't think so. Because all of those states, Texas, Arizona, and New Mexico, have had severe flooding. Sure, it could just be the weather. It's unpredictable, right? And there could be that crazy Marjorie Taylor Greene weather manipulation crap going on. Who knows? I don't pay a lot of attention to her. I know that she's been at odds with Dear Donnie, but she's just such a freaking wingnut. I can't. I just like to run with her gazpacho soup faux pas a few years ago. People keep talking about the Gestapo Trumpster fire police in DC, and I'm like, don't you mean gazpacho? It's been a terrible year. She has great skills. Yeah, the AI skills with Squirrels on Fire, and the gardening skills, and a lot of skills for sure. Absolutely. It's been a really rough year for a lot of people. You know, we had the inauguration on January 20th, I think it was. But prior to that, in December, we had the first, I think it was attributed to friendly fire when the Navy, the naval carrier Harry S. Truman out in the Red Sea, one of our fighter planes, one of our Hornets was shot down by friendly fire. That was in December before the inauguration. And then in February might have been when the USS Truman crashed into a Chinese cargo ship. And then I think it was March and April that a couple more Hornet fighter jets fell into the water. One of them, they said it was basically parked, but what, they forgot to put the emergency brake on, and then they made a sharp turn with the carrier and it went into the water. Like, oops, there goes $70 million. Whoopsie. And then like 8 days later, there was a Hornet fighter jet landing on that same SS Truman carrier that they had some trouble when they were trying to like throw the hook on at the end of the landing to help slow the airplane down and stop the airplane before it drives itself right over the edge of the carrier into the water. So they missed. And so there were like 4 major losses with that USS Truman in the Red Sea in the period of like 4 or 5 months. And most of it was under Donnie's administration. You know, the one in December, you could say that was still Biden's administration, but he's a lame duck president. And I think that the incoming president has more power than the lame duck president. I'll have to ask artificial intelligence about that. Let's see what they say. I could be incorrect, but let's see what AI says. Does a lame duck president have more or less power than the incoming president? It's not really giving me a straight answer. I'll have to do more research on it. I thought it would just give me a yes or no, basically. But it's funny because, yeah, they talk about from day one that Trumpster fires a lame duck president, meaning because he can't technically run for third office in 2028, although we know that he's planning on it. Let me see what Wikipedia says about that, though. Outgoing politicians are often seen as having less influence with other politicians due to their limited time left in office. Conversely, a lame duck is free to make decisions that exercise the standard powers with little fear of backlash, such as issuing executive orders, pardons, or other controversial edits. Lame duck politicians result from term limits, planned retirement, electoral losses, and are especially noticeable where political systems build in a delay between the announcement of results and the taking of office by election winners. So that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that for that friendly fire loss of the fighter jet Hornet from the first one off of USS Truman. I hadn't really thought about that fact that the incoming president would have more influence than the lame duck sitting president. I did think it was weird that it happened so close to the inauguration, but yet it still happened on Biden's watch. Like, and I'm just being a little bit of a conspiracy theorist here, but could somebody have pulled some strings to make that happen to try to make Biden look bad? And so that then when the next handful of things happened in the coming months, you know, I'm thinking of Scammy, like how her and Kylie Rodney were such good friends in the coming months. Anyway, tangent. That then you could say, oh, well, the one thing happened while Biden was still in office. So that takes some of the pressure off for the three things that happened in the first 3 or 4 months of Trumpster Fire's administration. Like, that's a lot of loss off of one carrier. And there were 2 carriers out there in the Red Sea, I think, the whole time. And I don't think there was any other significant loss off of the other carrier. Again, you know me, I'll do more research on it. Let's see. It could be global warming, right, with the flooding. Absolutely. I mean, it was raining so severely here yesterday after the live that I had with you guys. I was like, dang, are we going to be the next flood right here in Ohio? I mean, Vance already tried to make that happen by releasing the excessive water out of the Cedar Creek Reservoir for his little boat ride in the Little Miami River last week. And I wanted to clarify, I thought that he might have gone on a vacation recently in Canada, but I think it was actually the UK that he recently did a vacation in the UK, like just a few days ago. So I was getting my wires crossed. And I thought that I might have been. I wasn't sure, but I wanted to clarify that I did look into that and get it figured out. Yes, there have been so many weird things that have happened since he took office. Well, and a lot of those weird things that have happened in Pennsylvania, California. I mean, mostly Pennsylvania and California, but, you know, Texas has been a lot too. Especially with the horrific floods there at the Guadalupe River. And man, that just couldn't have been more tragic. And then with the train derailment there yesterday or the day before, there were no lives lost, but potentially some real toxic material, which reminds me of the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. I think that happened on Biden's administration, and that there was a lot of speculation about some type of conspiracy, like that it was on purpose, that it was a lot of toxic crap. Let's see. When was the East Palestine, Ohio train derailment? It seems like it was longer ago. So much has happened since then. February 3rd, 2023. Man, it seems like it was so much longer ago than just 2 years. And what was the cause? A failed wheel bearing on a rail car that overheated and separated. Anyway, I'm not going to keep looking at that. We're just over an hour, and I haven't bit my tongue since I shoved all that wax in there. Sorry for shoving my hands in my mouth in front of you guys like I said I wouldn't do. I didn't want to do it, but I had to. It has helped, but um, it's just not staying put. Like on the outside, when you put the wax on the outside, it stays pretty well put, but because of the heat of your mouth, it melts and moves around. But when it's on the inside of the teeth, there's like nothing for it to attach itself to. So it is really hard to make it stay still, especially when you're talking. So I'll have to just put some wax in my mouth and not talk and let it heal up. I mean, fortunately, the tissue in your mouth heals up really quickly, or at least mine does. It really just takes a couple hours of wax for the rawness to undo itself. Vance thinks he's going to be president. Oh, I'm so glad. Let's see. I'm so glad you said that, Anna Bees, because yeah, that's been cracking me up. I deleted Chat GPT. Yeah, you know that one channel that I watch? You'd probably like Rosie's Insight if you haven't seen it yet, Anna Bees. I just realized that what she's doing is she's asking Chat GPT questions about how things are going to pan out. So I didn't know, like when she was talking into and getting this information, it was kind of like I thought, was she got some kind of 8-ball kind of thing? But I'm pretty sure it's Chat GPT that she will ask, like, what's going to happen with DJT in a month, and then Chat GPT will say what it thinks is going to happen. Like that's what her show has been lately. And it just dawned on me yesterday that it was Chat GPT. I was like, okay. Like I said, I thought it was like a complex 8-ball, which I guess it kind of is, huh? Pretty cool. But yeah, I don't do the Chat GPT. I just do the AI. I think those are two different things, aren't they? Similar but different. So yeah, Vance does think he's going to be president, and I can't think of anything funnier or more disgusting. I mean, I like to call him mashed potatoes in a suit, and I think it was Jon Stewart was where I got that from. So I don't want to take credit for making that up because it is funny AF. So yeah, President mashed potatoes in a suit, I don't think is going to fly, other than in a food fight, right? I got to start driving home now. Okay, and yeah, I'm going to wrap up too. So I'll just be listening. Fred says, Sammy's weird Instagram today. She said hot girls play dodgeball. And then I don't know what that word is supposed to be. Something. Alit's plan girls. Photo with several hot girls. LOL. a play not plan. Okay. Hot girls play dodgeball. Hot girls play girls dodgeball. Fred, you got me so confused. It's not you, it's me. Sorry. But yeah, I'm so glad that you check out her Instagram and then report it here in my chat. I appreciate you, Fred. I appreciate you for more than that, but that's pretty excellent that you do that. So let's see. The school year of 2022-2023, and then the school year of 2023-2024, and then the school year of 2024-2025. So if she's still going to UC Irvine, she would be about to start her senior year there. Do you know, Fred, from checking out her Instagram? And how many hot girls from UC Irvine have disappeared in the 3 years that she's been there? Do you know? I'm sure some. I hate to say that. But, I mean, she has to be the queen. She has to be number one. So if there's any competition, which I'm sure there is at a giant school like that, she's going to have to take them out at the kneecaps, do a Tanya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan situation. Okay, what else do I have in my notes? I know I have one or two other things I probably want to share. About prices are up. Yes, I wanted to share this. I'm so glad that I didn't wrap it up without sharing. What is this about the MAGA women and their damn makeup? Okay, like, I know that I've been sort of quasi focused on it for a while, and I see a lot of people talking about it on YouTube. And the whole MAGA chick thing is like the long, loose hair and, hopefully blonde, right? But brunette's okay too, as long as it's long and loose, voluptuous, lots of hair. And then lots of spackled makeup. Like, get your buckets of spackle and put it on 4 inches thick, which is why that channel and Mayhem Ensued is so freaking fantastic, because he literally looks like he's got buckets of spackle, like he's like a little kid playing with it. And then at the end, he looks exactly like whoever it is that he's trying to recreate their makeup, whether it's like Caroline Levitt, Christy Nome, whoever. I haven't seen him do Janine Pierno or Piero, whatever her name is. I got to check that out. He should do Pete Hegseth's makeup. He does do some of the guys' makeup, like JD Vance and stuff. But Hegseth has a whole makeup room. I mean, Keg's breath. Anyway, and then they have this whole like super skinny thing. Like, you got to be super skinny to be a Mar-a-Lago MAGA chick. And yeah, let me look at my notes again because my brain is not working. It hadn't occurred to me that they're kind of like making themselves like the perfect look to do a drag queen from. Like, I mean, think about Laura Loomer. Like, she looks like a drag queen. Same thing with Christy Nome. These women do themselves up to look like they're drag queens. I think that's the goal. I think there's some weird perverted crap going on with that. I don't know. Put a 1 in the chat if you agree. A play, not a plan. Okay. Fred, I'm going to try to read that last comment again. Sammy's weird Instagram today. She said hot girls play dodgeball. Playgirls photo with several hot girls. Yeah, and she's she seems like she's probably playing for both teams, doesn't she? She's always struck me like that. Like, I've always thought there was a lot of jealousy of her towards Kylie, and also some sexual tension, basically. So anyway, nobody's putting a 1. You don't think the MAGA women are trying to be drag queen examples? I do. Anyway, I am going to wrap up before I bite my tongue again because it just is too painful. So thanks for being here, you guys. Love and light. I will try again tomorrow to do my live right around 2 o'clock, give or take an hour. So love and light. Have a great afternoon. Drink your water, eat your protein, eat or drink your fruits and veggies, and we will see you then. Take care, and most importantly, just be yourself. Thanks for the hearts. Love and light.